we have Vivos Therapeutics. We have Kirk Huntsman, the CEO. Kirk, how's it going?
Going great, thanks.
What can you tell folks about your company and what it does?
Well, so let me get this presentation up here. Can you see that?
Yeah, and you're using a Mac, it looks like. Yeah, so you want to hit the presentation down on the very bottom right of your window.
Okay, let me do
right
that.
there.
There you go. All right. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for having us. Vivos is a company that is poised to really make a huge difference in the sleep and breathing wellness market, specifically addressing the needs of patients with obstructive sleep apnea. So let's kind of just go through this and get the cautionary notes out of the way. A lot of people are surprised to hear that there are over 1 billion people on this planet with obstructive sleep apnea, and that 80% or more of those people are undiagnosed and untreated. And you know, we used to think that sleep apnea was no big deal, but now we know that sleep apnea is comorbid with all those things you see on the right there. We're talking about cardiovascular disease, we're talking about chronic fatigue, hypertension, bruxism, crowded teeth, chronic headaches, aggressive behaviors, Alzheimer's disease, dementia. This condition of obstructive sleep apnea is absolutely deadly, and it's pervasive. And so Vivos is uniquely poised here. But the fact that there's so many people out there beg these questions. Why are there so many people suffering from OSA, and why are so few receiving treatment? If 80% of the people don't even know they have it and they're undiagnosed and untreated, what's going wrong here? And we believe there's two main barriers. And the first is that the doctors don't know who has it. People sleep through their sleep apnea. And when they do show up finally at their physician's office and say, I've got daytime drowsiness, I have no energy, I'm having all these other issues, hypertension, the physicians then, it used to be that they had to write a script to go have the patient go to an in-lab overnight sleep test. Well, now we've introduced a brand new technology to address that. But the second issue is that modern medicine hasn't been able to fix this condition. And so, let's face it, treatment options for sleep apnea are horrible. They're unappealing, they're costly, they're often ineffective, because who wants to wear a CPAP? Nobody wants to wear that thing, and it's only worn by people who have no other better options. So along comes Vivos with two really important breakthrough technologies. In the upper right-hand corner, you see a breakthrough technology that is our diagnostic product. We call it Vivos Score. In the lower left-hand corner, we have our oral appliance therapy that is actually presented through the dental offices, and I'll explain what that does here in a minute. So we are a medical technology focused on the commercialization of an innovative diagnostic and therapy solutions for patients with sleep disordered breathing, including mild to moderate OSA. So let's talk about our diagnostic product for a moment. It's called Vivos Score, and it's a simple ring that goes on your finger that is suited for both. It's approved, FDA cleared for both children and adults. And what it does is it hooks up to your cell phone, and you just put the ring on your finger. It automatically syncs up via Bluetooth. You go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, you take the ring off, and the doctor, within 10 minutes, the doctor has a full overnight sleep test. The important thing being that it's the accuracy on this new technology is very, very close to being the same as a full-on polysomnogram, the in-lab overnight sleep test. So here we have a home sleep test approved for children and adults with about a 95% cost reduction over the in-lab polysomnograms, and we're bringing that to market throughout North America and eventually elsewhere. But we're under a license for that. We work with a company out of Colorado right near us called Sleep Image. They've licensed us for that. We have an exclusive license for that, the distribution. What you're seeing on the screen now is our therapeutic product. So once we identify patients that have this condition, the question is, what do we do with it? And how are we advancing the state of the art? Well, these oral appliances, that you see on the screen in front of you. This is not some sort of medieval torture deal. This is actually a very comfortable oral appliance that's worn in the mouth in the evening hours and overnight. And within a matter of months, a patient can realize a change in their dentition, their anatomy, the positioning of their jaws, and it opens things up. I'm going to show you here in a moment. Let me tell you what sleep apnea basically is. First of all, an apnea is when your airway closes down. That's an apnea, and you can't breathe. And so the number of times that happens through the course of a night's sleep, the number of times that happens an hour, gives the clinician something called the apnea hypopnea index. Now I'm giving you the sort of the layman's view on this thing. It's a little more complicated than this, but it's effectively counting up the number of times that your airway collapses. Severe sleep apnea over 30, mild to moderate, which is where our indications of use are from the FDA. But our doctors tend to treat the full spectrum. Let's look at what we do here. So we have a patient here, a 30-year-old male on the left-hand side. These images are actually three-dimensional images. We're showing you a two-dimensional frontal view, but these are actually three-dimensional images where we can actually identify and isolate the colorized area there on the left is all the red and yellow and blue. That's actually an airway that's prone to collapse. It's severe sleep apnea. You'll notice that after wearing our appliances for 14 months, again, with no appliance in the mouth, his airway is gone, and the volume has doubled and the area has tripled. And so this case, actually, this guy finished treatment back in 2018, and he's still walking around here in 2021 with the airway on the right. No further intervention, nothing. So here's another 73-year-old male patient, 17 months in treatment. You can kind of see the same technology at play here that has taken and more than doubled the volume of his airway, the capacity of it, and you'll just see that this is a huge difference in the ability and the capacity of that airway to process things. You can show you here. This is his airway isolated out of that image, and you can see here again that with no appliance in the mouth, his airway is much larger, much more, much less prone to being able to be collapsed. In 17 published studies, we showed a mean airway AHI reduction of 67%. That's almost unheard of with no intervention in place. So typically what you see in tests is you see all these different modalities, and the CPAP, for example, they test the patient without the CPAP, and then they test the patient with the CPAP. And they say, well, this is how far we've reduced it. At Vivos, we test the patient before we start treatment. Then we can test them mid-treatment, but after treatment with no appliance in the mouth, they're done. They're 12 to 24 months in and out of treatment, and they then have an airway that is open and no further need for intervention in most cases. And we have these other modalities that you see on the screen here. They're either surgical, which is a risky and more radical approach, or they require lifetime nightly use. So you have to haul your CPAP machine around with you on vacations, on business trips, et cetera. Not with Vivos. We actually, you're in treatment, you're out of treatment, you're done, and your insurance company's paid part of the freight, and you're ready to roll. Our company has a revenue model that basically has a services sector to it, or services bucket, let's say, where we actually have training fees that the doctors pay us to be trained in this. They average, we call them VIPs, that's Vivos Integrated Provider, about $28,000 to $30,000 per provider to get trained. And then we actually, those guys, once they get trained, they start doing cases. We get $1,600 to $1,800 a case. We have about 85% margins on our training and about 75% margins on our appliances. So we're roughly an 80% gross margin business. We also get recurring support revenue fees that add to our overall bucket there. So just to give you an idea for the economics, the dentist will charge between $8,000 and $10,000 for a case. Again, about half of that's going to be paid for by insurance. The patients will be charged at $9,000, about half of that. being covered by the insurance, as I said. And then the doctor will have overhead of around $3,000 and a net take-home margin of about $6,000. This is very comparable economics, by the way, to what dentists are used to with something like Invisalign, the Invisalign cases. And in fact, we modeled our go-to-market strategy, and our model pricing model was modeled right after the Invisalign people at Align Technologies. Again, the CPT codes for insurance reimbursements, we get pretty broad coverage across the country in the U.S. with very, very few. There's a couple of insurance payers that don't cover our products, but almost every other payer pays on us. We're talking United, most of the Blues, Anthem, Aetna, all of them cover our products here. So what have we done here? We've actually taken and put through the dental profession, we've put an opportunity for them to screen their patients with our Vivos score products, begin a dialogue about their airway, and then have a solution that is where they work collaboratively with the medical profession towards a treatment plan that involves our therapeutic products, and that happens in the dental office. We have Aero 2 is our commercial grade software platform for managing airway patients in the dental office. Extremely easy to use and very effective, and facilitates a lot of production. We have an airway intelligence service, which actually helps the doctors with every case to diagnose, treatment plan, give them a sense of what to do, how to do it. We have the medical billing services through our billing intelligence service. We have our Institute for Sleep Medicine, and that institute is active at training, mentoring, providing backstops for the doctors if they get a case that they need help with. Our insomnia clinics, now we've opened up, we're about to open our third one. We've opened 2 in California, one in Del Mar and one in Modesto. These are owned by physicians, and then they are given over to they contract with the dentist. MyoCorrect is the oral myofascial therapy that we just recently announced and acquired. It adds a whole new revenue stream to us. Our company has been growing rapidly, and we have been adding products and services along the way. We think we have some strong competitive strengths. There's nobody out there that has a technology like what we have. There's nobody that can do what we do. There are other dental appliances on the market, but they're strictly a mechanical advancement of the lower jaw. It's called mandibular advancement. Nobody allows for what we allow for, which is the remodeling or the repositioning rather of the tissues in the dental cavity, in the oral cavity. So our dentists work within the scope of their profession, their license, to assist as part of the clinical team that's going to address the patient's condition and overall health. And with all of the FDA clearances, all the research that we have, all the things that we've accomplished, it's very difficult for somebody that's going to catch up to us. When the world begins to realize what we have, the technology that we're actually able to do things, what we're able to do rather, I think we're going to see some real growth. You can see our historical numbers here from a gross revenue standpoint. We went in 2018 revenues of 3.8 million to 11.4. So we were growing very, very rapidly. COVID, last year, 3 or 4 months of shutdown in the dental profession, and then a slow climb back out sort of left us with a 15% growth pattern. But we've seen some real pickup in Q1. We have an earnings call on Monday where we'll announce what happened in Q1. We'll announce some things, give some ideas on how things are going here in Q2. But let's just say that we have an incredible bounce back that's going on. We've raised a little over $50 million in the last 6 months with our IPO, and then just last week we completed a follow-on offering. So we're in great shape from a cash standpoint. We're in great shape from a marketing standpoint. We're getting leads, we're getting calls and leads all around the world on our Vivos score announcements. So we feel really good about where we are in the stream of things and what our future holds.
Hey, Kirk, this is Neil. We are at time. So final remarks, please.
Yeah. So I've got a great team here. This is our leadership team. Our board of directors is absolutely, top drawer with the people we have on here, industry professionals, government contact people that have all kinds of experience and background. We're beginning a a trial at Stanford. The future just looks very bright for us in a very large market with a unique and value-added service. So we see a lot of good times ahead for Vivos.
Wonderful, Kirk. Thank you so much for being here with us at the Small Cap Conference.
You bet.